All right, Esper Tempo. For those new to Magic, Esper refers to the 3-color combination of blue, white, and black. We've played a number of blue-white base decks. We've tried Bant, we've tried straight blue-white. One of the things that blue-white has consistently felt like in this format is that it just has this glut of 3s, and it really lacks having good, efficient, cheap spells. So today, what we have here is that same good blue-white core of these cards up here at our top end, along with Brazen Borrower, but we're splashing into black to get some good, cheap interaction in our deck. So that way we can be impacting the board or breaking up our opponent's curve and whatnot before we get to our more powerful cards at the top end. So we've got Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, and Thought Erasure here as 12 cards to kind of pick apart their hand and give us some more information, and then we can try and push our way all the way through with our more powerful top end. So hoping that the black cards here can give us a way to break up what our opponent's doing to survive to get to our powerful 3-drops more consistently, and we'll see how that goes. Thanks for the 13 months, Wiggles. I appreciate that. Welcome back. The problem with music is that I guess my in-between segments don't get uploaded to YouTube. So I could play some royalty-free music during the in-between segments, I suppose. The problem with that is just another thing to remember to like start and stop too. My favorite deck in Pioneer, I think Feather or the Abzan Delirium deck are two of my favorites right now that are up on my website. Yeah, I think that's the other thing too. Like, I know a number of people listen to music while they watch the stream too, so I really don't want to play my own. Yeah. Even on the brief downtime in between decks, like it's 2 minutes, people survive. Okie doke. Hey, Pseudo Panda. 5/12 is not a significant fraction. Still been a good time. Thanks for the 5 months. I appreciate you keeping me around. Maybe I'm supposed to shock in on one here. Not only do the bounce spells make our Thoughtseize live into the late game, but Teferi's +1 can let you draw step Thoughtseize too, right? Yeah, I agree, Singer. Definitely agree that I am better at filling time with my voice than many people. That's a tough one. I think I'm just taking Chandra here, and then I'm planning to Fatal Push the Karizev. I mean, decks like that are good in Pioneer, Big Kitty. Like, something that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that, like, people don't just play the best decks in formats like this. It's just like Modern for a long time. Like the appeal to formats like this for most people is they get to play with the pet decks that they enjoy playing even when they're not optimal. So this is going to be a format where people are frequently going to be playing decks that are far from tier 1. And even when there are decks that are much better than everything else, they're never going to be a significant percentage of the field. It's a type of format that people play because they want to relive cards that they've enjoyed playing in their past. Formats, non-rotating formats like this aren't like Standard, where players are chasing the best deck from week to week. Where players are used to having to buy new cards week in and week out. It's a format where players have a deck that they really like playing and identify with, and they focus on playing that deck well, because that's what they find satisfying to do. I think I'm going to snap off a block here. If they drew a weighted trigger prowess, they drew a weighted trigger prowess. Yep. Can you quantify why you think 4 damage in a game is too much shockland damage? Like, it's so weird to me that players are like in modern and legacy, people frequently take 4+ damage from their lands. So like, why is that suddenly a problem in this format? Really disagree with the idea that 3-color mana bases aren't functional here, or they can't cost you too much damage. Like, I feel like looking at this game and concluding we lost because we took too much damage from our lands, like, ignores the fact that we didn't draw any spells. Feel like you're choosing to ignore reality and substitute your own. I'm gonna trim some of these discard spells. Leaving a couple of Thoughtseize is fine, because seeing like 1 per game is okay, but in general, want more cards that impact the board rather than cards that are trying to impact their hand. I don't think this is a veto matchup. Okay. Blessed Alliance, since we have 2 other removal spells, I'll probably want to hold on to this for when we can use it with 2 modes. That way we can gain some life with it too. Send Raider back from whence it came. Tried to recast it. Sorry, friendo. That's not how that one works. It's possible that because our deck's playing Fatal Push, that maybe I should have built the mana base with Passage in it. I think unbanning fetch lands would change the Pioneer format. I think questions like that are stupid and pointless. Like they're wild speculation that doesn't actually come across as a useful exercise in any sort of way, shape, or form. I think it's a question that doesn't help me get better as a Magic player or improve in the format, and examining it is a waste of my time. It's a sweet Moto artwork. For the record, I think part of the appeal of playing this format is the format having worse mana and lower power threats, I think, are a net positive for it. I think a lower power level format with worse mana allows more cards to be playable that otherwise wouldn't be playable. The rare 3-mode Blessed Alliance. Want to alliance in response to Kari's trigger, so that way they can't sack the monkey. I mean, I even think that comparison's kind of off base, Decker. Like, again, Magic players too often, in my opinion, want to draw parallels between things that just don't have parallels. I don't know why people are so afraid to just be like, this is new and different, and that's okay. Like, I don't think this format is standard plus or modern minus. Like, neither of those things are accurate, in my opinion. It's okay to just be like, hey, this is something new and different. That's neat. Got an Embercleave here. There's activating Castle. Just Castle. I guess they could have Embercleave too. Maybe I'm supposed to Fatal Push the Karizev here. But if I block like this, I can then push the Torbran. Feels Magic, man. I'm gonna give you a 10-minute break to read Karizev so you can understand why blocking Karizev wasn't an option. So this is part of the problem that the other blue, white, and Bant decks had too. While our cards here are high quality, if you look at this deck, other than Avacyn flipping over and dealing damage to everything, our deck doesn't really have any sources of card advantage in it, which means when we flood a little bit and we don't have enough cards to successfully one-for-one our opponents a bunch, we can quickly fall behind. Which might be one of the failings of this archetype that's just like not correctable without just playing a different deck. Sure, this is an Esper deck. We haven't missed land drops. It's a good question. It's good. It's a good point. Yeah, variety of the control decks in this format. Play Search for Azcanta Singer. We played Blue-White Approach again yesterday. It's a deck we've played a number of times. Had that card in it. Blister Coil, weird. Okay, so their deck's a little lower to the ground. I would love a third land. Curious Obsession is an interesting thought. If you look at our total creature count overall, it's kind of low for something like that. Continuing my support in case Thoughtseize gets its stuff together one day. If you haven't played the current standard format, Crazy Duck, I was honestly pleasantly surprised at how wrong I was about how much Theros was going to impact standard. The current standard format is very, very good. At least, you know, so far. Sure. And thank you for the tier 2. I appreciate it. If you were playing Standard last year, I think the current Standard format's very comparable to RNA Standard, which I thought was good as well, in that it's a Standard format that has a lot of sweet things in it with a couple of stains around the edges, but the stains aren't so bad that, like, it makes the format unplayable. Reflector Mage with discard spells is kind of sweet. Just get value out of them when they'd otherwise be dead. You know, if I'm being honest, this is our second red matchup in a row. I kind of glazed out in between. I was like, forgot that we were in a different matchup. I was like, oh, playing against red again. Brazen Borrower is probably a little bit medium. Trim one of those. Trim the erasures again. Dream Trawler could be an interesting top end of this deck. We've got 25 lands, so like we could probably cast a 6-drop with some consistency, and it does definitely address the issue directly of not having card advantage. I think it's worth shocking this in, so I can play a 1-mana spell this turn and a 2-mana spell next turn. I think I want to go ahead and Fatal Push this turn, because I think there's a chance that their deck seems like it's pretty low to the ground, so I would bet they have light up the stage. So keeping them off of Spectacle this turn seems potentially very good. Eidolon, bro. Eidolon, Tid. Deck the halls with balls of Eidolon. Da 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 da. Hey, they had to light up the stage we played around earlier. Sick. So we get to send Taylor back from whence she came. And then next turn we can Thoughtseize her most likely while holding up Aether Gust. This is probably going to be a land that will cycle. Start with this, see where we go. Huh? I'm going to take their threat. We'll probably block this next turn. They'll like shock Wild Slash us. Will Aether Gust their thing? Brazen Borrower is very, very good. You are not wrong. It is very, very good. Is Taylor an MTG wide thing or just a Hoaglandia thing? It's just a Hoaglandia thing. If they don't attack in, we'll cycle the Fetid Pool. which does mean this is tapped now, but that's fine. So they have Shock, Wild Slash, light up the stage here. So they have Shock, light up the stage, that one card we don't know. I mean, it's not exactly an innovative comment, right? Alright, let's Gust. Steamkin in response here. So they don't have more mana to do stuff this turn. We're going to 8 from this. So they can light up the stage here as well. But at least we're not taking the hit from the Steamkin. Probably just going to take 4 from the Blister Coilbeard, I think. They bottom Steamkin. That's interesting. Land Skewer. Alright, got a jump block. Got it. I guess they could just kill this too. And put us to 3. Yeah, that makes sense. Take the choice away from us. Doke. Okay. If we don't die this turn, the Spell Queller gives us a real chance. Especially with Teferi out. I said we didn't have any card advantage earlier. Spell Queller Teferi's like kind of card advantage, huh? Now, the tricky part here is we can't even take a single point of damage because Reminap Runes is staring us down. Thanks for the 5 months, or the 8 months, Head of God. I appreciate that. Welcome back. I think Bolt would be an awful reprint into Pioneer. I think the people who keep talking about wanting better answers in Pioneer should just go play Modern. Because Modern is a case study in what happens when you let your format just get run away with, the threats and the answers having a race to the top. A format like Pioneer is better than Modern because it's lower power level. When you increase the power level of everything in a Magic format, it results in less playable cards, not more playable cards. Oh, that's a great draw. Might actually win this game, huh? We talked about Troller. I think that could be an okay inclusion in this deck, maybe. So did do another runes, of course. Good beats. It was actual only card in their deck that killed us here. Like, if they didn't draw that there, I was gonna get to flash in Avacyn, attack them for 6, and then like Teferi gets to bounce Queller and I have double Queller up. Super unfortunate. There's nothing wrong with Planeswalkers. Stop it. This is not Magic Reddit. We don't let you just needlessly complain about Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers are great. Planeswalkers are one of the best card types ever introduced into Magic the Gathering. the thing that boils my blood more than anything else is when idiots who can't critically think for themselves and just parrot what they've heard on Reddit and Twitter call planeswalkers difficult to interact with. If you actually think about what you're saying, you realize how incredibly stupid that comment is. Planeswalkers are the single most interactable archetype in Magic the Gathering. Planeswalkers are like artifacts and enchantments that you can attack. Calling planeswalkers a bad card type or poorly designed because there's some bad ones is like saying artifacts are bad because Ensnaring Bridge sucks. It's like saying enchantments shouldn't exist because Blood Moon sucks. Yeah, there's planeswalkers that are poorly designed and could be better and are bad. But it doesn't mean the planeswalker card type as a whole is difficult to interact with or bad. Which is, again, why we often say here, the devil is in the details. So when you talk about the details and actually think about what you're saying and put context to it, you realize how incredibly stupid it is and how it's actually just completely illogical and doesn't make sense. I would get rid of all enchantments to get rid of Blood Moon. You know, when I played Modern, I would have agreed with you. Blood Moon is one of the single worst gameplay experiences in Modern. Hands down, not close. Like, people also often like to take that idea and try and apply it to the static ability planeswalkers, right? They're like, oh, Nissa and Teferi from War of the Spark, their static abilities are frustrating, so planeswalkers shouldn't have static abilities. And it's like, well, what about Tibalt? And what about Ashiok? And what about the other planeswalkers in War that had good static abilities, like 3-mana Domri? What about the variety of things that create reasonable gameplay experiences while having static abilities on a planeswalker? So it's okay to acknowledge that, like, things missed the mark without saying, like, okay, everything of this card type needs to go. Yeah, imagine if Teferi's static text was Grand Arbiter or Grand Abolisher. Imagine if Teferi's static text simply said players can't play spells on your turn. Imagine how just that very little change would create an absurd amount of counterplay to that card. Make them sacrifice, we'll gain 4. A lot of the complaints surrounding planeswalkers are very relatable to the London Mulligan, and that they're old men who have played Magic for 2.5 decades who want to yell at the sky because they're upset that the game that they've played for forever looks slightly different today in 2020. I'm not sure how we beat a Frenzy. Maybe a well-placed Spell Queller here. We could race them. We have a 4-turn clock here, theoretically. I think it's important that I Spell Queller this, because otherwise they can use 2 spells over a couple of turns to kill my Quellers. If their Frenzy is good, we're definitely just dead, though. Bring back Auntie. Hey, Selfless Spirit's great. Lets us protect our Spell Quellers. Also gives us a 2-turn clock instead of a 3-turn clock. Just gotta get fortunate for 2 turns here. Now they have a Light Up the Stage in Exile here too. There's a pretty real chance that we get beat down here, especially with the shock on top. So they're going to push us to 20. They're going to cast Light Up the Stage. Someone who's played Magic for 23 years, the only balanced Magic was Portal. Gideon Ally of Zendikar is the one that everyone hated. We'll shoot. So they have a mountain here and a clue, and they have a Ramanap rune. I think we're dead. Feel pretty dead. Tough beat. Almost had the second game. They peeled it out, and then that third game, Frenzy just ran away with it. Yeah, I don't know. So, like, there's something to be said again, like, when something happens once, it's like, okay, that's variance. And, like, our sample size is small, but I think there is something to be said for the fact that, like, these mid-range kind of tempo-y style decks, like, don't have an incredible amount of closing power, and we do have kind of a high land count, right? Like, I'm on 25 land to try and play 3 drops consistently on 3 and curve out to 5. And our deck, again, not having card advantage means that we feel that flood harder because we're not really generating 2-for-1s while we're flooding. So every time our opponent has more spells than us, if we don't have 2-for-1s, we fall behind. Shambling Vent on 1. Perfect. For Jund Croxa. Sounds good, Rage Quit. Yeah, we'll get some Edicts or something in there. I forget how many lands you're playing, but if it's enough, 4-mana Liliana is a good or 6-mana Liliana is a good choice. I mean, Clow, to be fair, I'm not boarding Despark in against the mono red deck. I just call a spade a spade. Recommending Despark after losing to Experimental Frenzy seems weird to me. I think I just bounced this with Reflector Mage. Then we can potentially Thoughtseize it next turn. The problem if I Thoughtseize or Selfless Spirit here, and Selfless Spirit, they could flip this. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like when you make exchanges in your sideboard, usually you want cards to fill similar roles unless your sideboard is drastically misbuilt. You want to give Standard a chance. There are a ton of great Standard decks on my website. I think my art guy sent me 2 more banners for decks yesterday. So in addition to what's up there, I'm going to be adding an Esper control deck as well as a, what is that? I've got Esper control to put up there, and I've got the Jeskai combo deck to put up there. I would not recommend blue-white control. I think if you're looking to play control, I think both Esper and the Sultai variation that we've played recently are better choices. So we're dead. Hey, that's a good one, I guess. I don't have a permanent answer to this game 1 though. And I can't Spell Queller it. Alright. Maybe we can tempo them out of it. Generic comments like this deck seems like worth something else are not welcome in my chat. If you want to be constructive, you need to be specific. So you could say like, Jeff, I feel like this deck is doing X, Y, and Z worse than this other deck. I feel like these tools this other deck plays give it a similar strategy, but they tend to be better than what your deck is doing. Again, this isn't corporate America. I don't need your buzzwords. I need details that are actionable and specific to be helpful. And if you're not being helpful, you're just being hateful. That's not welcome here. Hey, look, we found an answer to the Scarab God, chat. My deck's better than I thought. Bounce plus discard. Get rid of any permanent type. Reason to not Thought Erasure during draw step. Nope, should have done it during draw step. You are correct. I agree. Could have had more information there. I don't think there exists a card in their deck that we would take instead of Scarab God, but you're right that I could have had one more piece of information. I was mostly just really excited that we drew an answer to the Scarab God. Because if they draw a second Scarab God, we don't want to see it. Ain't that the truth? Alright, I accept that as an answer. I'm going to cast Brazen Borrower, is the reason I didn't attack with Spell Queller. Or didn't attack with Shambling Vent. I know. Magic Online makes it impossible to know whose adventure creature this is, but it's ours. So this is 9, so they'll lose 1 life going to 2 when they draw with this castle. Now, if they do find a way to deal with the Spell Queller through the Selfless Spirit, they will get to gain 2 from Vraska's Contempt, but feeling like we're in a pretty good spot here. The Spirit claims to be selfless, but it won't even take a bullet for Teferi. Let's be honest, the list of people that would take a bullet for Teferi is probably pretty short, right? Alright, Disdainful Stroke's probably pretty good against their Scarab God deck. Fatal Push seems pretty bad. I don't know that I want Rest in Peace necessarily for S-God. Probably Deccan Stone is good. I don't think I want to cut all the mages, but some are probably a cut. Bring in a pair of Vetos. What do we think of this board plan? I think I like it. I think I'm on board. To be fair, spirits can probably just go over the top of Scarab God in the most literal sense. Okay, sweet. I'm glad they responded to you, Fox. Someone actually pointed out that was listed on their website, by the way. I'm not sure where exactly, but one of the subs yesterday said they went in, they were poking around, and it has that listed. Yeah, no, I can't point you to exactly where it is, but someone else said it was listed there. What decks do you bring an Ego against? Decks that can't win the game when you remove a single card from them. So what's a good example of that? The Lotus Field deck. Take their Lotus Fields away. Because remember, that deck can take lands. Easy dig through time take here. Do I want another Thought Erasure? Yeah, JAC. Yeah, it might be right to bring it against Soulflayer into visit too. I could see that. Yeah, the Inverter of Truth deck. You could take their Inverter of Truth, seems good. Do I want this discard spell? I have double Fatal Push. I feel like I don't. Oh, that's a good thought. Yeah, you're right, I totally do. Yeah, the discard spells plus the bounce spells have been great. So we can send this back from whence it came at the end of their next turn, and then Thought Erasure on our following turn. Sounds stellar. So the problem with Spell Quellering here is they have Fabled Passage plus Fatal Push. So I think I just let this happen. Yeah, I think it is, Jared. I think there are some decks that want to run both, but I think as long as Simic is one of the best decks in the format with Uro running around, that we want the ability to be able to exile primarily. Being able to cast it easier also comes up on occasion, but for the most part, I think if you can cast both, you probably want Remorse first. We've been playing for Remorse and Esper, and it's been reasonable. Well, we get to punch him in the face twice. We're not excited about it. Sure. Take Enter the God Eternals with this one. The problem is they're going to get to flip this Jace next turn and Thought Erasure us again. I guess they could flip the Jace and dig here even. That's probably the line, huh? Opponent correctly leaving their fetch land untapped so they can trigger a Revolt for Fatal Push when they need it. No, I don't think you should play bad cards to make your good card better. I think that's a very common deck building mistake that you should avoid with Uro. Play more good cards, your deck will be better. Morning, Misha. Dealer's choice. Say Fatal Push and one card I don't know. Hey, Mr. Missouri, thanks for the host. Hope you had a good stream. I guess I should have shocked that land in, huh? Definitely. Yeah, I should have shocked that land in. It's a good draw. Nice, Misha. Congrats. All right, Scarab God, you're officially a problem for future Jeff. Yep, you get draw stat, thought erase, or Thoughtseize. Perfect. So now something to worry about here is they get to flip Jace. And then they get to flashback Enter the God Eternals and kill my Brazen Borrower. So, like, we need to draw another Brazen Borrower or a Teferi here, or another Reflector Mage. They have an untapped land here. They can also Fatal Push my other threat, but they probably don't really need to. They milled me. Really, really weird that they elected to... Oh, no, they milled themselves. I'm dumb. Yeah, they had another one. All right, probably dead here. Yikes. Yikes. Tripping through time. Gosh, you know, maybe just dig through time is the card this deck. We talked about this deck not having card advantage. With all the discard spells, this deck fills the graveyard up a lot quicker than the straight blue-white builds do. That's probably the answer. Thinking about it a touch, it's probably just 2 to 3 dig through time. Yeah, maybe I talked about maybe wanting to rework the mana for Fatal Push with Fabled Passage anyways. Have you played against the Inverter deck yet? Yeah, we've played against it like almost half a dozen times already. It's become very popular since it posted in the 5.0 deck dump. Seems okay. It's a neat A-B combo. Your auto clicker isn't working. You gotta work for your shillings like a normal pleb. That's rough. Alright, I think we're done here. Your DDoS is working. I think I'm happy with how we boarded. I'm gonna go ahead and run it back. I think we just keep this and hope to draw spells. Yeah, I think sounds appealing. I think get a 4 Fabled Passage mana base in this deck. And then that plus discard spells. Probably play 3 dig real easy. Yeah, Trawler's a fine Magic card. It's just like, because this deck plays out its stuff, there's a good chance our hand is pretty low by the time we get to Trawler most games, which is a concern. Yeah, so my big takeaway here is definitely I need some card advantage in this deck. Probably like Borrower, Avacyn, and some other random spell out to put some dig through time in here is probably the answer. I think straight blue-white couldn't really consistently put cards into the graveyard for it, but I think this build with the discard spells, and then if we play for Fabled Passage in the mana base, could potentially be okay. I don't know. There's a good chance just like on a raw power level, like what we're doing here just isn't quite good enough though too. Good, I could see that. To make the mana work, it's probably like Glacial Fortress out for Fabled Passage. Maybe Choked Estuary stops working there as well too. Maybe. The red matchups felt hard too though, and like it's not like we didn't have a lot of cards for red matchup. Like I've got Dex and Blessed Alliance. Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that like the black aggro decks were gonna be held up by not having Copter, and they're really able to just play through it because of their recursive threat generating card advantage. This archetype just doesn't have a good way to mitigate the flooding a lot of the time. Maybe Dig helps that, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and be done with this league just because I feel like the way our deck constructed is not ideal to say the least. All right, what are we doing? I think Thassa's Intervention in this deck sounds like a good addition. So I think I'm gonna add a couple of those. All right, I'm gonna do a quick ad roll while we get set up for the next deck. I think we're actually gonna do 2 more decks today. So I'm gonna grab cards for Sultai Reclamation as well as Grixis Madness. We'll be back in just a few minutes kicking off with Sultai Reclamation. Thanks for hanging out, folks. Don't go anywhere.